So let's do a bit of relaxation, yeah? And then if we are lucky, we may meditate later. I remember I used to argue with Ajahn Brahm saying, when did the Buddha say relaxation? He said to meditate. And he would laugh at me. But only later I realized how important it is for us to learn to relax because we are really, busy people. We are in the world used to going from one task to the next, getting things done, getting things out of the way, following protocols or whatever it is, getting things done and moving from one thing to the other, doing things. So when it comes to time for meditation, we just carry on that same mindset, doing meditation. Get on with it, get it out of your way, whatever it is, yeah? So, but meditation is not one of those things, yeah? It's the opposite of doing. It's learning to not do very much, yeah? It's the learning to just be here. It's learning. So it's really important that we learn how to relax first. I think for most people in the modern days, they never relax. They feel guilty for relaxing. Yeah. Sometimes you feel like, oh, maybe I should be doing something. It's that heavy conditioning. I don't have enough time, can't waste time. Therefore, I must always be doing something. So then meditation also becomes part of that doing. But we have to recondition ourselves. Yeah. So that's the whole point of starting meditation time. It's time for relaxing, time for resting this body and this mind, which has been working really hard, yeah, for a very, very long time. Sometimes people hardly stop because even they see dreams, that means their mind is still busy even at night, yeah. So it's really important to give it a break, give it a rest, but enjoy it. So it's important that you tell yourself that for the next 15, 20 minutes when we are meditating, I'm going to stay alert. I'm going to be here because I want to enjoy this relaxation. So with that kind of idea and understanding, we know that for the next little while, we have nothing to do, nowhere to go. If you just rest and did nothing for 20 minutes, your world isn't going to come to an end. Everything will be fine. So you just let all of those things that you have to do later, today or tomorrow, or weeks or months later, never mind. Yeah, never mind, because what happens? You might die tonight. You might die during this meditation. Sit even, isn't it? It's possible. So then the idea of future doesn't make any sense. It hasn't come yet. We don't know what it's going to be. Whatever you think your future is going to be, it's going to be different. So let go of that idea of the future. It's a waste of time. The past, that has finished now. You can't change it, no matter how much you want it to be otherwise. It's done with. It's like a dream now. It's gone by. Again, that's a waste of time to spend time thinking about the past. It's much more helpful just to be here and enjoy being here. So it's always helpful to have a support for that, and that is why the Buddha always instruct that it's a very helpful way of meditating when you can direct your mind towards the body. Kaya gata sati. Yeah. So mindfulness established in the body. I often like to pay attention to the touch sensations of my palms, or my feet touching the ground, or my bottom on the seat, or all of those things. and ground myself to the here and now with that sensation. And gently allow your body to unwind and relax. Whenever your mind is going towards thoughts, you can gently bring it back to the touch sensations of the body. And ground it to here and now. If you're feeling tired, or if there are any aches or pains or discomfort in your body, see whether you can build up a perception of your body is like your best friend, or it's your best friend's body that's in difficulty. And have that affection and care towards the difficulties of your body. And this will help you to relax, even if it is painful. As your body is resting, as your mind is becoming a bit more peaceful and silent, if you see your breath naturally going in and going out, you can be aware of it and pay attention to it, but very gently as a passive observer, just seeing the breath going in and breath going out very naturally. It's very restful to watch the breath. It has a natural, calm rhythm. So if you wish, you can use your breath as a way of really relaxing deeply into this moment. As we are coming close to the end of this short meditation, just reflect back and see, how do you feel now? How is your body? And how is your mind? If you wish, you can take 3 long breaths, and at the end of the last one, you can open your eyes and come out of meditation. There was a request in the chat today talking about maybe how do we know whether we are making progress or not on the path. I'm inspired to talk about that, but also I have a promise from a long time ago. There was a request made long time ago by a couple of people. And that was about the relationship between parents and children, especially focusing on what did the Buddha have to say about the duties of parents towards their children and the duties of children towards their parents. There are some books written about these things, and there are also quite a number of Dhamma talks, but it's always a very nice kind of topic to talk about. The reason I delayed it because it was specifically about the Buddha's words, so I needed time to do my homework, and I kept forgetting or busy, but what happened yesterday, some people gave us a whole bunch of books. And in that pile, there was this very small little booklet called What a Wonderful Thing is a Mother. But inside it, there are quite nice verses. So when I read them, I got my inspiration back. So I didn't do still the full research, so it's incomplete, but enough for a Dhamma talk for today. But I'm going to probably call it Why Make Peace with Your Mother? So no discrimination for fathers. I promise I will give another talk at another time about the father. But of course, a lot of what I'm going to say is going to apply to both parents. However, there is a difference between the mother and the father, right? How they relate to the children and what they do and what they contribute are different in a family. There are some things that are shared, but there are other things that are unique. So it's also nice sometimes to focus on each one separately, but there will be some that would apply for both. And also this will be interesting for you. Watch your mind as you listen to this course. Some of you are mothers, some of you are daughters, some of you are both in the audience. And fathers can still relate the relationship of being a parent, and a child in this occasion as well. So it's another different way of perceiving it. It's interesting. It's always interesting, right? We all know only how to listen to something in our own gender, right? Each gender, how they relate to any topic is different. So it's interesting. But especially this one will be very interesting for each one of us to listen. And also, it is quite common in the world. We have most of our problems with the people closest to us, right? So, of course, with both parents, sometimes we have very mixed relationships, love and hate relationships, difficulties. It's quite a common thing. So, any one of you thinking, oh no, this is a difficult subject, you are not alone, right? We all of us have various degrees of these things at some point or the other. I mean, some people have very, very beautiful relationships between, and it's very nice to see parents and children in a very beautiful relationship. But most relationships in the family are always mixed because we live together, we go through all kinds of challenges, and we have defilements. So, of course, it's a mix. Yeah. So it is important to talk about it. And by no means, I am an expert and I can't say I have the most amazing relationship even with my mother. Even for me, it has been challenging at times. So it is for all of us. Yeah. And of course, I have never been a mother. So therefore, what I can say will be quite limited. But, I will just try my best and also share what the Buddhas say, and maybe we can have a nice discussion at the end with your contributions as well to this. So maybe just for inspiration, shall I just start with reading? Maybe start reading a verse from here. And this one says, "Thanks for listening. Thanks for caring. Thanks for always helping in times of need. Thanks for sharing. Thanks, Mom, for always being there." This is by Miles M. Hutchinson. So as you listen to this, or each one of us would have different reactions, right? Because for some people, that would have described your mother. For others, that would have described your expectations from your mother, which you never got. And that may be the source of the problem that you have in your heart. Maybe you have even not spoken about it. Yeah. But maybe you feel that in your heart. This sometimes is the case. Yeah. When you wanted them to listen, you felt that they didn't listen. When you wanted them to care, maybe they did care, but maybe you didn't feel their care. And maybe you wanted them to help you all the time, but they probably couldn't help you all the time at needs. Yeah. And some people get upset about them, and maybe you wanted them to share more things than they were able to. And maybe they couldn't always be there for you. It's interesting to reflect this, right? For some people, they may have had these issues. So this is why I was saying that I might call this talk, "Why Make Peace with Mom?" Because we all know that, in our hearts, sometimes it's the small little things, unsaid, yeah, things that didn't happen, somehow accumulates, and you can feel that tightness in your chest. It's not very helpful in the long run, isn't it? Yes, it is good. And sometimes you think there are many other important things in your life, so you never really take the time to look at this thing because there may be more issues with your children or with your work or with your finance, with the world. We are all very busy people. But sometimes, it's these small things that we need to take care of first because they are big things. Because our relationship to our parents is a very big and strong karma generating, yeah? The intentional actions done to our parents is quite heavy. So that is why it is really important to take care of that one. Why I say it like that is that it is actually straight from the suttas. In the suttas, the Buddha doesn't really say that he is that most people can't get enlightened. In fact, he says most people can get enlightened if they strive and do the right thing, follow the noble eightfold path, even in this very life, except for somebody who's done 5 things. That's the only person. Yeah, that's the only person. For everybody else, they can. And who are these 5 people, 5 things? And that is somebody who has killed their mother, killed their father, harmed a Buddha, harmed a bhikkhuni, or split the Sangha, the harmony of the Sangha, and separated them. These are called anantariya papakammas. So also, your actions towards your mother or your father as well, in this occasion for both parents it goes, is heavy, because the Buddha says beautifully that you can, it's very, very hard to repay your parents. So I'm going to read straight from the suttas, so that it's not just me saying, this is actually the word of the Buddha. So this one is from Anguttara Nikaya, that is the Numerical Discourses, book 2, sutta number 33. So I'll read the sutta first and let's see how it goes. Bhikkhus, there are 2 persons that cannot easily be repaid. What 2? One's mother and father. Even if one should carry about one's mother on one shoulder and one's father on the other, and while doing so should have a lifespan of 100 years, live for 100 years, and if one should attend to them by anointing them with balms, by massaging, bathing, rubbing their limbs, and they even void their urine and excrement there, one still would not have done enough for one's parents, nor would one have repaid them. Even if one were to establish one's parents as the supreme lords and rulers over the great earth, abounding in the 7 treasures, one still would not have done enough for one's parents, nor would one have repaid them. For what reason? Parents are of great help to their children. They bring them up, feed them, and show them the world. But bhikkhus, if when one's parents lack faith, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in faith. If when one's parents are immoral, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in virtuous behavior. If when one's parents are miserly, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in generosity. If when one's parents are unwise, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in wisdom. In such a way, one has done enough for one's parents, repaid them, and done more than enough for them. So it's really quite a beautiful sutta to really contemplate. Yeah. So in the beginning, the Buddha says, yeah, that it is very hard to repay our parents. Why? It's very difficult sometimes to understand the reason. But those of you who have already had children, when you have been a parent, then you know, then you understand what your parents have done for you. That's why sometimes while we are only a child, it is really hard for us to see what our parents have done, yeah, for us. So when we talk about both the parents, the sacrifice they make when you're little, yeah, to bring you up, to feed you, how hard they were, yeah. But especially if you focus on the mother, carrying you inside her body, for 9 months. And we see sometimes for some women, the pregnancy is incredibly painful. Yeah. You see the morning sickness and all of these difficulties some women have to go through to give birth to you. Yeah. And then also the process of giving birth. I mean, in some countries it's hard for people to see, but like in a country like Australia, at least the husbands get to see, if you're brave enough, how the baby is born, and then they get incredible, respect for their wives, and for females in general, to see sometimes what they have to go through to give birth to you, how difficult it is. Yeah. Sometimes they're cut open live. There's not enough time to put anything because the baby is struggling. So they have to just cut. Yeah. So all kinds of these things that we don't realize. But also, especially for the mother at the very first few weeks or months while the baby is completely dependent on the mother's milk and mother's care, because the baby is very connected to the mother in the beginning. So I have seen this with my cousin, for example. Even I myself have not been a mother, that very soon after she gave birth, she got a really bad flu, like a really, really bad flu, where it was really high fever and she was really sick. But she had this little baby. Yeah, so even if she's so sick, she still has to feed the baby, take care of the baby, because you're the mother. And I'm sure, some of you know this and you have seen this. And it's incredible. Later on, your mother may have turned out to be a bit difficult for you. This happens in the world. So not all mothers are completely perfect. But very many times, at least that much they have done for us. Yeah, they have done incredible. And that much is enough for you to be already grateful. Even after that point onwards, if they did some wrong things, this happens as well. We have to acknowledge that fact. Even to that degree, how can you still make peace with your mother? I mean, the fathers too. Like I said, maybe I'll focus on the father in another talk. Let me just focus mainly on the mother, and just reflecting that. Yeah, incredible amount of gratitude should come up in our hearts. I am not here if, for each one of us. I wouldn't be alive, I wouldn't be born, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my parents, and especially for my mother who gave birth and did at least those initial things. But it goes more than that, right? And this is where again both parents come in. I remember, like when I was little, I was only about 9 years of age when this reflection happened to me. I saw like how much my parents were doing, because they were taking me all day long to classes, yeah, elocution, music, dancing, everything under the sun. They want to give your child the very best as much as possible. So they try whatever they can, they try. Yeah, most parents would do whatever they can manage to do, they do. I saw this happening. I thought my parents don't have a life. I thought that they were like, they seem like my slave almost. Yeah. You see this, yeah? They have how much time, how much energy, how much effort, how much money they invest to try to bring us up. It's incredible. But when we don't reflect that, or we only reflect on, but my mother didn't do that. Yeah. But other people's mothers, and why my mother didn't send me to dancing? I would have been a great dancer. Why didn't they send me to music? I could have been a great pianist. If you think like that, well, that is not helpful. They still would have done what was they were able to, maybe financially, physically, with their job, whatever it is, within their ability, or they didn't know. They can only do what they can, right? So whatever it is, that instead of focusing on what they didn't do for us that they could have done, we can always see the things that they have done for us that have been very, very helpful to us. Yeah. So this is really important way of reflecting, to bring up that kindness, that love, that care, and forgive these people. Yeah. Because another very beautiful thing that I have heard from our abbot Ajahn Hasapanya, and she's the abbot of Dhammasara as well. And I used to train there in Western Australia. And I heard from her, she is a mother of a one son. She has a son. And she often say, I never went to school to learn how to be a mother. Nobody does, right? I mean, in the Western world, in the modern days, apparently there are parenting classes and schools where you can learn a little bit, but not many people do. And that's never still a full, complete education. For most, vast majority of people, never really been taught how to be a parent, how to be a mom or a dad. So, of course, you learn as you go. And also, you think maybe I had my first child and I learned everything, but it's still different with the second child. You still make mistakes. You feel like you made mistakes, but they're not mistakes. It's just what it is. Yeah. So, this is also important if you are a mother and if you have some regrets thinking I was not a good mother, I could have been better. That too, you need to let go. You did only what you could at the time. Of course, if you reflect back, you can think I could have done, but you did only what you could, yeah, at that time. So it is important in that way. But for children, for us to think about, to have that trust, they could only do what is within their capacity. Yeah, this is a very, very important reflection. And another aspect that only became quite apparent to me only much later, because these things were not that common, especially I grew up in Sri Lanka. When I was little, I don't think this information was as common, and that is the postnatal depression. This was not that known. I mean, these days it's a little bit well known. I only heard about it as an adult when I was in Australia. I never heard it as a child that this kind of thing is there. And it's a biological thing, right? After having given birth, there is a change that happens, and in a chemical change, and due to that, and some mothers behave quite strangely, and they are completely out of their control because it is controlled by chemicals in their body, the hormones in their body. They get into depression, and sometimes they have a very bad relationship with their children, but it was really not within their ability. But as a child, if we can't see that, if your mother, and this is quite common, sometimes it may not be the full form, it may be just border, like various degrees of it, maybe. So therefore, it is important to consider that maybe my mother was going through a really hard time after giving birth, just biologically. Yeah, they go through difficulty too, and that's probably why they treated me the way they did. So this is important to remember these things. Yeah. And many other things. So if it is not that, they're still another human being and they go through life. Maybe they were having a hard time in their marriage. They may be having a hard time in their work, in their life, in financially, all kinds of things. And some parents are single parents and they have problems as well, and all kinds of things. But if we fail to reflect that why, if our mothers weren't perfect, why they did what they did, we can always see. Because in general nature, for vast majority, again, it's not 100%, but for vast majority of the parents, they have very good intentions towards their children. They try their very best. They would get it wrong, but their intentions would have been good. Sometimes they think they know what's good for their children, and they do, but probably that's not what the children want. But sometimes they don't know what else to do. And they also have been conditioned by their past and their culture, and they just try and do what they know. So this is where it's really important for us to try to understand, especially if we have a mixed kind of difficult relationship with our parents, especially in this talk, I'm focusing on the mother, to bring up these things in our mind and do these reflections to balance things out and not just focus only on the downside or the things that didn't work or the difficulties. Of course, there can be mothers who are a little bit abusive or a lot abusive or not perfect in any way, who got you into danger, did things that were not trustworthy. All these things I acknowledge. Yeah, it is important. And these will bring up heavy things for some of you. So I am sorry about that. But at the same time, it is important one day to face it, yeah, when you're ready. I mean, if you have some medical conditions, of course, I am unable to, and then this talk may not be for you because I'm not an expert. For people who have already got some kind of trauma or past serious issues with this thing, then this talk is probably not for you straight away. But this is, uh, I'm limited in that one, of course. But even then, it is important that you get some help, even professional help, to try to work it out and resolve it in this life, because otherwise these things go on and on in lifetimes. So for us, our parents, our children, this close family unit, they are karmically connected. Yeah. So if we don't resolve, forgive, and let go these things in a good way, they just carry on. Yeah. So it is really, really important that in this life, when we have come across the Dhamma, when we have got this understanding that we have spoken many times about um, the non-self nature, like how we are conditioned by our past. All of our actions, our thinking, way of doing things have been conditioned in the past. Yeah. And anybody who has not built up any mindfulness, because not many people in the world build up right mindfulness. So unmindfully, we fare along in this long samsara, driven by our habits, driven by our instinct and these karmic things. So it is quite dangerous, and part of our difficulty, whether it was with our parents, are also our karmic inheritance. So you don't only point towards your parents or your children for the difficulty. You are also responsible to some degree, and you take it in a good way, understanding, well, this is something that I need to also repay. Not everything is karma, but there is one aspect of that, especially in that family unit, that is to consider. So therefore you don't feel completely, difficult, but you understand, yeah, that it's fair. You don't really ask the question why. Why couldn't it be like this? We can't remember, and sometimes it could be many lifetimes ago. This is the unfairness of samsara, isn't it? We can't know exactly when the conducive conditions come together, those karma come to fruition. So this is the thing. So whatever it is, what we can do is, instead of complaining about difficulties, instead of really, getting upset about these things, you can always use a little bit of right view as much as possible to make the best use of whatever the difficult situation is. There's always a possibility, something to learn from it. Yeah. Some place where you can build up compassion, something for you to grow with patience, endurance. Yeah, there's so many spiritual qualities that can be developed when we have difficulties in our life. So this is a better way to deal with that than with revenge, complaints, yelling, arguing, saying why I have to deal with this, and all these kinds of negative ways. Instead of that, it's already here, it's in my life. What's the best way I can deal with it much better? Because like I said, this karma, especially the karma from children towards the parents, because the parents are the ones who's done so much for you from the birth. That's why we have a debt. They never say the parents have a debt to their children, but it's always the other way around. So therefore it is very important. And also these things linger in our mind. And for when we start meditation, when we want to really make spiritual progress, these can also block us. So that is why I said, why make peace with your mother? Is those things can stop us from progress as well, because they are parts of regrets and remorse. Yeah, when regrets and remorse are there in our mind, we know, we have spoken about this, the meditation psychology, yeah, in the Ayya Karunika Sutta, for example, but there are maybe 20, 30 suttas where the Buddha gives this sequence, how the meditation works. If we have regrets and remorse, forget about meditation, because a mind with regrets and remorse cannot have gladness, pamoja, and that's a very essential first step to start meditation. If the mind doesn't have gladness, which is called pamoja, it won't develop. But when the mind has regrets and remorse, mind can't have gladness. But of course, none of us are perfect people. So we have to deal with our unskillful things, the difficulties in our life in a skillful way if we want peace, let alone the other person, for our own benefit, because it is not a nice feeling to have these kind of negative feelings towards another person. It's painful straight away to us more than anybody else when we have this difficulty about thinking about another person uh, in that way. So seeking our own benefit, our own peace of mind, our own progress in the path, our own enlightenment, it is very important to resolve these things. Yeah. So therefore, some effort needs to be done, and for some of us, it might be difficult. So we have to prepare. We can't do it anytime, any old time, especially if it has been difficult relationship. We have to have that intention of wanting to do it, and we have to slowly build up for it. Yeah, we have to do it at a time when we have joy, when we have peace. Then we can do the reflections slowly. Never mind how long it may take. It may take weeks, months, or years for us. Never mind, as long as we have that intention, see the benefit of doing that, benefit especially for oneself more than anything, but for both. Yeah, it has benefit for both. It is really important. So it's actually really important thing to remember and do. So, and then for those of us who have that wanting to repay, to be pay our gratitude towards our parents. And the Buddha here said in this sutta, it is not just by, just, of course, we have to do those things as well, like take care of them when they're sick, support them, give them all the material needs, food, medicine, massage them, look after them, do all of those things, because they have done that to us when we were little. Yeah. And you also do that to take care of them. But the Buddha says by just doing that alone, we are not be able to repay the good, the benefit they have done. Just the fact of giving birth to us, giving life to us, that itself, let alone anything else, that we have a debt. And the way we repay for them is by establishing them in the Buddha's teachings. Like if our parents are people who do not have faith and confidence in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, if we are able to, sometimes it's hard, but if we are able to establish their confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, if we done that, then we have repaid them. If they are not keeping sila, if they are unvirtuous, if we are able to encourage them to keep at least the 5 precepts, then we have paid. If they're not listening to the Dhamma teachings, if we are able to establish them, make interest for them to get into the Dhamma, that is helpful. If we are able to get them into meditation, even better. Give them opportunities for them. So whatever it is to help them in the spiritual path, then at that time we have done our duty. We have repaid. And that's great. And some of us and some of you have done that. And you can have joy knowing that I have done my bit. Yeah. And of course, some parents, they are not going to be ready. So then there's not a lot we can do, but we can try. Yeah, whatever skillful, have patience. And sometimes when we do our work, when they see something still goes inside. Yeah, that's why they say, like when their children, if they become a monastic, it's always a benefit. And you wonder why, how can it be a benefit for a parent who completely disagreed or didn't like or didn't appreciate their children? Because this is quite common sometimes. Yeah, this happens even in the Buddhist world and also in the Western world. Some parents, they're happy for other people's children to ordain, but not theirs. Right. Yeah. So for that, for in those occasions, but why is there still a benefit is whether even outwardly they may not express their thing. But if you have been a good monastic, if you have been practicing, or even if you're not a monastic, but if you've been progressing and making peace, and they can see a positive change in you, it still does something for them. So even they may not want to sort of take refuge in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, they may not want to listen to the Dhamma, they may not want to go to temple. Also generosity, yeah, they may not become generous, they may not want to meditate, never mind. But as you are progressing and as they see, there will still be some benefit for them. So don't have a hard time. Like I can tell, like for example, Ajahn Brahm is an amazing Dhamma teacher, right? Who has been so beneficial for so many people in the world, thousands of hundreds of thousands of people. Yet his mother didn't become a Buddhist or get established in the Buddhist path. Even he couldn't, somebody so powerful like him couldn't change his mother in that way. I don't think she ever took refuges or things undertook to keep virtue. But I'm pretty sure having a powerful son living like that, there would have been changes, whether she acknowledged or not. That would have been a great benefit for her. So like that, so we have complete complex relationships, difficulties. So we have to be skillful and do, and forcing them against their will isn't going to work either, right? Because you want to repay your debt. You can't forcefully drag your parents to a retreat or get them to listen to the Dhamma, or get them to give donations and things like that. That's not right either. You can only inspire them. Yeah, the way the Buddha says is inspire them to do these things, and if they get inspired, they'll do. But they are the owners of their own karma. They are wherever they are in their spiritual journey or in their samsaric journey. So we understand that. But even our intention to want to do that itself is great. Mother is the name for God in the lips and hearts of little children. This is William Makepeace Thackeray or whatever. Somebody had said that. And you would wonder, yeah, is it really? And is it only for little children? But look what the Buddha said, right? And this is a sutta from, again, Numerical Discourses. That's Anguttara Nikaya, book 3, sutta number 31, called Brahma. Bhikkhus, those families dwell with Brahma, where at home the mother and father are revered by their children. Those families dwell with the first teachers, where at home the mother and father are revered by their children. Those families dwell with the first deities, where at home the mother and father are revered by their children. Those families dwell with the gift worthy, where at home the mother and father are revered by their children. Brahma Bhikkhus is a designation for mother and father. First teachers is a designation for mother and father. First deities is a designation for mother and father. Gift worthy is a designation for mother and father. And why? Mother and father are very helpful to their children. They raise them, nurture them, and show them the world. So that's a beautiful verse here. Mother and father are called Brahma and also first teachers. They are worthy of gifts from their children, for they have compassion for their offspring. Therefore, a wise person should revere them and show them due honor, serve them with food and drink, with clothes and bedding, by massaging and bathing them, and by washing their feet. Because of this service to mother and father, the wise praise one in this world, and after death one rejoices in heaven. So even all the beautiful things you do for your parents are good karma that can take you even to heaven and get you enlightened as well. Of course, in this verse, it's like that. So again, here the Buddha even calls Brahma is higher than the God and even deities, yeah? So it is not just a simple poem by somebody who's probably not even a Buddhist, but this is the attitude, yeah, because we learn our first things from our parents, even simple things. So again, focus on even the little things that they taught you. They may have also taught you in some very rare occasions, unfortunate occasions, bad things as well. In that, we have to just forgive and let go about the unskillfulness. Yeah, it's no point in harboring those that, but with vast majority of us, it's the opposite, where we have plenty of things where we can reflect, and it is a beautiful way of bringing up that gratitude. Yeah, and as we say, gratitude is what is very, very helpful to bring up, even like those neurotransmitters like dopamine and what is it, the other one, serotonin. Those are the happy hormones. Yeah, so bringing up gratitude, at times you can use that gratitude towards the parents. Sometimes you can use it for the Buddha, sometimes you can do it to other people, but you can use, mother and father, because there's so many things that you can be grateful. So instead of complaining and fault finding and looking at our parents with the things that went wrong or they didn't do, try and see even one good thing that they have done, or two, or many. And that's actually really, really beautiful. And let's see what else is there in this little booklet. Um, the mother is everything. She is our consolation in sorrow, our hope in misery, and our strength in weakness. She is the source of love, mercy, sympathy, and forgiveness. I'm sure many people can relate to this as well, isn't it? Sometimes we take it for granted. Yeah. Sometimes we take it for granted. But it is only at times when we see when this is not the case with some people that we can be very grateful that we have this in our life with somebody who is caring, who's been there. And it is the nature, like even somebody who is a criminal. Yeah, if you ask the mother, what should we do? The mother would always say, please forgive me. Yeah, no matter how difficult the person is. This is the thing. The mother always tries to see their goodness of their children and try to forgive them. Yeah, that is also why also in the Karaniya Metta Sutta, the metta is described as the mother's love for their only child. And in this occasion, it's not that love with attachment to the only child, but rather that the mother's acceptance of that child for what they are. Again, not 100%, there's always the opposite is true, but vast majority, this is the case with the mother. So it is important for those people, which is this is the case, to focus on that. And if that wasn't the case, it is important to find a way to forgive and let go and make peace with that situation. They could only do what they can. So maybe I will also read something else, because there was also the suggestion to talk about um, why parents wish for a son. So daughters, please don't get upset. This is just the name of the sutta and probably the Indian society, but it will apply also for the daughters. This is just called son. Sometimes the word putta is used for daughter as well in the sense, but of course in this, the gender is son, but it'll apply to you as well. So let me read this one. Because considering 5 prospects, mother and father wish for a son to be born in their family. What 5? Having been supported by us, he will support us, or he will do work for us, or our family lineage will be extended. He will manage the inheritance, or else, when we have passed on, he will give an offering on our behalf. Considering these 5 prospects, mother and father wish for a son to be born in their family. So there's a verse which has a little bit more maybe. Considering the 5 prospects, wise people wish for a son. Supported by us, he will support us, or he will do work for us. The family lineage will be extended, he will manage the inheritance, or else when we have passed on, he will make an offering on our behalf. Considering these prospects, wise people wish for a son. Therefore, good persons, grateful and appreciative, support their mother and father, recalling how they They helped one in the past. They do what is necessary for them, as they did for oneself in the past. Following their advice, nurturing those who brought him up, continuing the family lineage endowed with faith, virtue. So anyway, and this one is also still from the numerical discourses. This was from chapter 5, sutta number 39. Anyway, I won't go into detail because the person just asked, but these are all about the duties of children towards the parents. So, but it is also good to know what are the parents' duties towards the children. Now I have not done my homework. So I will need more time and I might do in more detail with the sutta reference, but without that, I can still say a few words. Like, for example, when it comes to somebody, a woman who wants to become a nun, right? And there is a questionnaire. And if you are nursing, like if you are still have a little baby that who's dependent on you, then you shouldn't be ordained. Yeah, so that shows, mother can't just abandon their baby and go. And I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to find all the references, but I understand that, if you have children, young children, at least up until they're adults, there is a responsibility to make sure that they are taken care of. And then you would wonder how come uh, Siddhartha Gautama left his little child, like first newborn, and went, but he knew his child and wife was at the palace, royal palace, being looked after by his parents, and there was wealth and all the means were there, so they were anyway not really dependent directly on him. But if you are providing support, you can't just abandon in a very selfish, irresponsible way. But your duties towards your children is only up until they are an adult and able to take care of them. Once they are able to take care of themselves, then your main responsibility is finished. And this is also really important for parents to remember, because some parents until they die have responsibilities, in the sense they think, oh, now I have to look after the grandchildren and do this and that and the other, and they sometimes even become not diligent, pamada, they become heedless because they don't have time to practice because they're so busy. But those are not really direct responsibilities. They are the responsibilities of the new mom and dad, yeah, not the grandchildren. So it is also important to know, but of course it's up to you to do what is good and kind. I'm not really sure whether I'm going to be able to find direct references for them. It's more the duties of children towards the mother or parents are there, but there might be some. I will look for them later and talk about it, because that's also important. But in general, just for this Dhamma talk to be a little bit complete, I would also just say in general about relationships and what things are important, yeah, for the relationship to work, is that we have mutual respect in a relationship. So often, especially in cultural, like Asian backgrounds, we have often that we have respect for our parents, but you never think about parents have also respect for their children, in the sense it's not bowing down to them or anything like that, but acknowledging their presence, acknowledging them as a human being, including them, yeah, into the family, and make them feel respected in that way. Like, when you're speaking, if you look into somebody, that's showing respect. If you listen when somebody's speaking, that is respect, yeah, if you don't. And if you acknowledge what they're saying, yeah, if they take into on board what they're saying, say, no, you stupid, you're young, I'm not going to listen to you, because you hear that and you see that. You're not disrespecting in that sense, yeah. So therefore, that mutual respect is really important. And the mutual respect comes when we see good qualities in another person. So it is important for us to see the good qualities. So if you are a parent, see the good qualities of your children. And if you're a child, see the good qualities of your parents, not the not so good qualities or the bad qualities or the weak qualities, but focus on the good qualities. Each one of us have plenty good qualities in ourselves. But our tendency is to focus on the one or two or three or even 10 bad, but they will have another 100 to make up very many good things. So focus on that. That brings up affection. Yeah, so it is really important to build up affection by seeing good qualities. When you have affection, you have respect and you also have trust. So these are very difficult subjects for some people. These are very touchy as well, especially trust. So, I mean, the talk time is limited for me to address in fully, but, building up this in a relationship is very important. So these are also, the responsibilities of a parent to build that up into children by example, by how you live, what you do. This is where you can really help children. Um, when you do that, then they will do that back to you very likely. But of course, nothing is ever complete 100%. It is always, there are always variables. It's very difficult to give a public talk for a wide audience that will be, true and correct for everybody. So these are quite general statements that would apply for most, but I acknowledge there will always be exceptions. But when there is exception, we can always try to apply the Buddha's teachings, the right view to understand those occasions, and still, see how we can build up any broken trust. How can you build it up? It's really important. If the respect was broken, how can you build up that respect? If the affection is broken, how can you build up this affection? Because it is really important. Things happen because our lives, we go through all kinds of challenges, all kinds of things. And we have, if we are not enlightened beings, we have defilements, and because of our defilements, we would say and do unskillful things. And as a result, these things can get shattered a bit from time to time, or a lot. But it is important to try to build them up, and putting in the time and effort for those in our close family unit is really important. So make it a priority. Why? Because these things matter when it comes to our deathbed. Yeah. One day we are going to die. At that time, if we still have unresolved business with our close family unit, especially everybody, but especially with, they are much more stronger karma. So therefore, for just considering one's own well-being, one should take care of that. And considering the well-being of the other person, one should do this. And considering the welfare and well-being of both, we need to do this. And this is really very important. Still would like to maybe check with people both online and in the room for any questions.
I think first of all, we want to acknowledge your most outstanding Dharma talk, another outstanding Dharma talk from the Venerable, and we invite you all to say together sadhu. Handavang Dhammakata Sadhukham Dhamma se sadhu 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 anumodami. It's a very outstanding talk. Thank you so
There
much.
is a comment, very apt Dhamma talk. Hardly a day goes by that I don't think about mom who passed away 3 years ago. She is my role model and inspiration. She had unconditional love, generosity, always felt hard. Thank you so much, Rumi, for sharing that. It brings mudita, right? We can rejoice in the goodness of hearing good things. Yeah, thanks for that.
I have a comment to make. I think sometimes it's important to also let the parents have passed away to let them go, because sometimes people feel that you are fretting too much, and then they know that, and then there's a complication there. So we make peace, as when I was in the beautiful talk, we make peace, we acknowledge our faults and sometimes their faults too, and forgive. But we also we still remember them, but at the point we also have to let people go. Yeah.
That's very important. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really important. Yeah.
I think it was a very, very important talk. I don't know why. I feel really it's covered so many areas. No? Yeah. And sometimes we need another person or a good teacher, a good nun to remind us, even if you read it, it's not the same as actually you hearing it. And again, being in such lovely company, and all of us, we help each other that way, isn't it? Because we are all open for improvement and we all need friends. The Buddha said a good friend on the path is the highest blessings. Yeah.
If there are no more questions, we can end our talk.